Guys, we'll go ahead and get started. It's a little after 6 o'clock on the dot, actually. I'd like to welcome everyone to our regular monthly meeting for the month of October. I'd like to welcome all the guests and staff, board members. We'll go ahead and get started with the adoption of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look over that?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
A second.
Very good. All right, moving on to public comment. Miss Lucy Dahl is up first.
Thank you, Mayor.
Local report.
Because I tend to be long-winded, I actually made notes, so I shouldn't go over 3 minutes. This is about, there's two things. The first one's about the vacancy on the ABC board. In 2009, I founded the Burnsville Alcohol Sales Income Campaign, known as BASIC. I started attending town council meetings to understand how things work and to be more effective in spearheading the drive to improve the town's economic prosperity, which was under threat due to the loss of revenue from people buying not only beer and wine, but also their groceries in Madison and Mitchell counties. The council wisely gave residents the power to decide via a referendum vote rather than by putting their signatures on public petitions. The BASIC committee concentrated on economic issues. We raised and spent a total of $11,000, all in Yancey County, except for the series of TV ads for WLOS. The opposition raised and spent $41,000, of which $11,000, BASIC's entire budget amount, spent on printing and graphics done in Asheville, even though at that time there were 5 graphics companies in Yancey County. As the treasurer of the committee, I filed necessary reports with the Board of Elections and the state and have kept until today all the paperwork. I just handed it off to Chad. Being a person who needs something right after I toss it, I've hung on to it for 12 years. Today I'm donating the file to the town. I don't care what you do with it. I will be happy to serve on the ABC board if you think it's a good idea, as I do. That's keeping it local, part 1. Part 2 is Old Timey Days was a success. We have gotten great feedback from the surveys we put out for the vendors and the attendees. The committee is especially grateful to the town for the use of the stage and to Public Works for coming to our rescue at dark 30 on Saturday morning when they should be sleeping in to rescue the apple butter demonstrators' water needs. They sold out of apple butter and had to go home for more. We also want to thank the Chamber for loaning us equipment and the businesses who sponsored us. Denise, your thank you card is in the mail. The family that's run the festival for years has handed over the reins, and new people are stepping up to keep this popular event improving for the future. One comment we've seen over and over in the surveys is people's delight in how down home and local the festival is. So thank you, everybody who helped us. We hope to do better even next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Lucy. All right, next up, Mr. Ron Powell, BBH report.
Yeah, good to see y'all tonight. I was a little confused. My good friend Chad Fox told me, no, there wasn't going to be a public hearing on this VHB plan tonight. So in any event, I'm going to make a couple of remarks. You're going to be seeing the plan here in a few minutes. It's 100 and some pages long. I just want to point out a couple of things that I saw in it. I did contribute online. I don't know that I made any meetings. I know I didn't make any of the meetings. But in the summary on pages I'm calling it I and double I. It's Roman numerals, I guess. Only one of the 12 recommendations, priority items, are on the east end of town. Now, being a member of the east end of town, I hate to see that 11 of the 12 are on the west end of town, or central. On page 33, there's a caption to a picture that I want to burn in your brain. Look at it. Think about it. My priorities are PED 30, VP 10, and VP 19. And y'all know that because I served on the board and tried to get tried to get all that done. PED 30 ranked with 65 points. BP 10 had 60 points, and BP 19 had 60 points. That's all on page 37 of that report. Now, those rankings look like everything that got ranked up in the top 12 got 70 points. I don't know who contributed to the plan, you know, or where they live in town, or what their proclivities are, but I'm telling you, the east end of town needs a sidewalk. We need a sidewalk from, after you build that, you need a sidewalk from Flowers by Vance all the way up to Blue Bird Lane, and then you need, I don't know what the other one is, but it's all on that end of town. So please think about that when you're looking at this plan. I had a flat at my shop, and I had to decide where am I going to go to get it fixed, a flat. And I had a choice. I could walk to Ingalls, or I could walk down to Bud's. And both of them are super dangerous. I'm going to get run over either way until I get to a sidewalk. Now, I'm telling you, get out and walk. I walk. Y'all know that. You see me with the dog or whatever. Y'all start walking on the east end of town, and then rearrange that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. All right, Mr. Danny McIntosh, First Friday / pedestrian plan.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, town staff. It's good to see y'all. I did want to mention the pedestrian plan. I apparently didn't look at it in the same light as Ron did, and I didn't pay that much attention to it maybe. But I would say that I'm proud of the committee that served and the work that was done. There's a lot of work put into that. It was done very well. So whether or not the actual content could be better or not, I wouldn't say, but it has a lot of good information, a lot of hard work. The First Friday Burnsville, I've got to say that, I guess these are a good word, but Melanie has been a class act. From her presentation here to the council about what she would like to do, that vision, when she came back with actual plan, took instruction from the council on what to do, her process, procedure, taking applications, marketing and everything has been top notch. And it has taken some 3 or 4 months, and I know there were some comments about, well, how come it's got to take that long? Well, I'll tell you, people, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is not easy done, and she's done a tremendous job. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow evening to be a class operation. Thank y'all for what you do.
Thank you, Danny.
Can I claim 15 seconds of this time?
I have no objection, but I'm not charged.
Mayor,
Sure, Ron.
it's quick.
Sure.
I'll stand right here. In the words of Mark Bennett at his retirement dinner, I'm just going to keep us stirring.
That wasn't even 15 seconds. Miss Grace, talking about the town park.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. It's a privilege. I want to also thank you for the money for the pansies. We got 9 flats of pansies to put in the park for winter. And we started working on that, and the bees and the butterflies are coming back in the park, and it's been a really good success. A lot of people are really happy with the beauty in the park. It occurred to me this morning, and I want to say something about what that gentleman said too. I'll circle back. It occurred to me this morning that I was able to get here tonight, and I wanted to coin a term now for spring, glyphosate free in 2023 in the town park if possible. And I'll provide more information about that, but I'll just give you a quick blurb right here about glyphosate. The use of glyphosate harms aquatic and terrestrial species and causes loss of biodiversity, thereby making more ecosystems more vulnerable to pollution. It endangers pollinators, including wild bees and monarch butterflies, and exacerbates wildfires, since conifer-only forests burn faster. The World Health Organization International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as a probable carcinogenic to humans. Glyphosate has been found to cause injuries to human health, including harm, cellular function, and causing reproductive effects, hormone disruption, and more cancer. So I will provide more information on that, but basically I talked to Jeff about it, and he did minimize the spraying. There's a lot of children in the park, and it does keep the weeds down, but I have a team of people who are helping with all that now, so maybe we can do it with our hands instead of using chemicals. And then I just want to say about Main Street, I was leaving for work at 6:30 this morning and almost got hit by a car, just trying to cross the street and grab a newspaper before going to work. I'm noticing, I live right there, that with the traffic increasing, it's getting more intense to cross that street. I don't know what people are on their phones, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't know what can be done, if there needs to be more flashing lights or something. But this person had no intention of slowing down. This was 6:30 this morning. And I've had that happen more than once. I cross the street a lot to get to the park, and sometimes to get water to the park. But yeah, I think with a lot of more people coming into town, maybe there's something that can happen with the getting across the street in safer ways. Yeah. And thank you again for supporting the park. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, that sums up our portion of public comment. Moving on to item number 3. Everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from September 1st regular meeting.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mayor.
Second. All in favor? Motion carries, Chad. All right, we don't have any public hearings. We'll move on to item number 5, presentations. Ms. Luba, I'm going to stick with that. Not going to try the
Mr. Mayor
last name.
and council members, happy to be here with you all tonight. I'm Juba Zuluba with VHB, and we are working on the bicycle and pedestrian project acceleration plan for the town of Burnsville over the last, I think it was about 8 months. We started in March. Actually started in February probably, but had our first steering committee meeting in March. So happy to be wrapping up this process. I'm just going to log back in. Get the technology to cooperate. I also wanted to briefly mention that in regards to one of the comments heard here today about the need for additional improvements on the east side of town, there's 2 sets of recommendations in this draft plan for review today. There is the full network plan that's included in Chapter 2 that includes a longer list of projects in addition to the top 12 priority projects. So the top 12 priority projects were identified as probably being a little bit closer to some of the existing key destinations, in closer proximity to existing sidewalks and other facilities for people to walk on bicycles. So it's a little bit easier to kind of get the momentum going for those 12 projects. But it's not to say that the other projects are not important. So just to let you know, there's more recommendations than just the top 12 projects in there. So today I'm going to speak a little bit about the plan background and process, review our recommendations, and then review the visual cut sheets for the top 6 projects, and then review some of the next steps for the town. So this was an NCDOT Integrated Mobility Division funded planning study with the town of Burnsville putting in a local match. The town applied for this planning grant and received a planning grant through NCDOT Integrated Mobility Division, which used to be known as their Bike Ped Division, and Public Transportation Division was separate. They combined the 2, and now they're calling it Integrated Mobility Division. So on an annual basis, they issue this call for planning grants. So again, the town applied, was able to acquire some funding. put in a local match from VHB side. I worked on this plan, managing the study from VHB Charlotte office, and we had a number of my colleagues working on this plan as well. Heather and Chad were pretty heavily involved from the town side, and a number of other staff members. And then our NCDOT point of contact was Alexios Ferris, who is a staff member with NCDOT IMD division again.
Excuse me just a minute.
Yes.
Will you turn that microphone up just a little bit?
Sure, turn it up.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, we started in February. We had our first steering committee meeting in March, and then we had 2 more steering committee meetings. We also held a walking field visit in March. At the time, Heather was able to come out with us for a portion of the field visit. We developed a list of priority recommendations, and we reviewed our scoring approach with the steering committee and the project team to kind of figure out how to prioritize those projects. And then this plan, once adopted, is intended to support the town with applications for future grant opportunities, and I expect that there'll be some grant application opportunities coming up in the near future. So it's not that something has to be done immediately, but as those grant application opportunities come up, or as NCDOT might be looking at resurfacing roads where they overlap with the study recommendations, there might be an opportunity, or if there's any roadway widening projects in the future as well. Having this adopted plan in place means that the town has a place to speak with NCDOT about that roadway widening project, for example, and incorporate those recommendations as part of future projects. And there could be some smaller standalone improvements as well that the town could consider funding, maybe an intersection improvement here or there. But some of the larger projects, like a longer sidewalk project or a greenway project, would probably require some additional funding. Also to mention about the process, NCDOT IMD is still reviewing this plan as well. We expect that their comments will most likely be about formatting changes and maybe some small changes to the appendices in the plan. If there are some major changes, then there might be an opportunity to come back to the town council for additional amendment. But I expect that the changes will likely be minor. So this chart just reviews the timeline again. So we started in February. We held our 3 steering committee meetings during the duration of the project. In March, May, and in July, we held our public engagement meeting in August, in early August, during the Mount Mitchell Craft Fair. So the time we came out and set up in front of the town hall, with the town staff support, we were able to talk to a number of people, both locals as well as visitors, during the craft fair. And we also held our online survey from late July until mid-August at the time as well to get some public feedback. And so here we are today presenting the draft plan for your review and adoption. I also wanted to highlight that there's a number of corridors in reviewing the local roadway network and the state-maintained roadway network that we have identified as priority corridors. So we thought that those were particularly important to consider for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. So those kind of mainly deal with US 19 East, as well as West and East Main Street, North Main Street as well, and Pensacola Road also shows up as a priority corridor. So the full pedestrian network, bicycle and pedestrian network plan, again, that includes more than just the 12 priority recommendations. There's a number of other projects as well. And not all of them, of course, would be implemented at once, but over time, as those other opportunities come up for grant funding, for maybe incremental improvement with resurfacing or other NCDOT projects, although those projects can be considered for implementation. When thinking about priority project recommendation, again, the scoring approach was reviewed with the steering committee to make sure that we're on the right track. The scoring criteria took a look at proximity to affordable housing, for example, proximity to key activity destinations, such as the town hall, commercial district, the parks, the libraries, and the schools. Also proximity to existing sidewalk links, right? That was also part of the consideration, as well as the cost, right? As you all know, with the mountain topography, things can get pretty expensive to build pretty quickly. So cost was one of the considerations for selecting the top priority projects, because we're trying to identify those projects that are easier for the town to move forward with implementation, right? So maybe not the most difficult projects all at once, but some of the ones that might be a little bit easier to implement in the near future and that would have the highest return just in terms of proximity and connecting to the town center and the existing business activity and where people already are. So those priority 12 projects that were identified include currently some pedestrian sidewalk improvements, including pedestrian 30 project, which is along a sidewalk along East Main Street. There's also lighting, pedestrian scale lighting improvement recommended along West Main Street. That was one of the comments that we heard during the process for the plan, is that there's currently insufficient pedestrian scale lighting in downtown. So sometimes at night it feels a little bit less safe, especially if somebody parks further away and they're trying to walk to their destination, maybe to a restaurant or walk back from their event. This also includes several pedestrian crossing improvements. As already mentioned by one of the speakers earlier tonight, there are some concerns with enhancing pedestrian crossings that are existing. An additional sidewalk link, PED 36, would connect along Reservoir Road to go up kind of to Save More Foods to Bowditch Street. And also the plan recommends bicycle share roads, which would be a share the road condition, some marking on the lanes, on the roadway lanes through downtown Burnsville, where the speed limit is currently posted for 20 miles per hour. So it wouldn't be in the sections where the speed limit is higher at 35. We're not recommending this share the road marking in those higher speed sections of West Main Street and East Main Street, or mainly in the downtown core. So with that, a little bit more detail about some of those projects. The first project, we're calling it Bundle 1, that includes a couple intersection improvements. Intersection 1 and INT-07, those are improvements at US 19 East and South Main Street and Reservoir Road, as well as South Main Street and East-West Boulevard. Those two intersections are pretty close together. There are some pedestrian crossing facilities already in place, but there could be some enhancement made to those crossings, and some of them are simply missing. For example, across East-West Boulevard, there's not currently a striped crosswalk, so that could be some of the additions there. So in combination, we think that this pairing of improvements would be, the cost would be approximately $130,000. Now, all of the costs that we've developed for this plan were planning level costs. They're not engineering or design level costs. So we've used the latest NCDOT tool for bicycle and pedestrian cost estimation. But as you all know, all the prices have been rising here recently. So if a project goes to design, any of the projects on this list, would probably be an updated cost estimate developed as part of the design. So those are planning level costs, so kind of have to take them a little bit with a grain of salt. The second improvement, bundle number 2, also consists of several intersection improvements, INT 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So that would include some of the improvements to crossings at the town square to connect into the town square, and also some mid-block crossing improvements. For example, where there's an existing flashing beacon in front of the Jam Mountain on Main Street, this improvement would recommend an upgrade to the other side of that crossing. And where the existing crossings are to the center of Town Square, we recommend enhancing those crossings with high visibility crossing markings. Currently, there's just one line on each side of the crosswalk. So this would add the crossbars, the piano key bars or the cross white bars to make them more visible. And this is one of those opportunities where we think some of the restriping could happen in parallel with an NCDOT resurfacing project, right? At that time, if it's possible to coordinate with NCDOT in time, they can go ahead and change the striping as part of their resurfacing project. The next project, ADA 1, this would have to deal with ADA accessibility improvements along South Main Street in proximity to that inn building that's being redeveloped, kind of across from the building that we're in right now. So there's a set of stairs and some driveway crossings that could be upgraded. The next couple of projects are also intersection improvement projects. One is at US 19 East and Pensacola Road. Again, there's already a pedestrian signal there. There are some marked crossings. We think that there could still be additional enhancements. For example, there could be no right turn on red to coincide with the pedestrian signal when a pedestrian green walking phase is actuated to prohibit drivers from turning into the pedestrian's path. And it would have to be a programmable sign. In our discussion with the Division 13 from NCDOT, they were okay with a programmable sign, but they would only want it to work while a pedestrian actually requests that walk phase. So again, some simple enhancements could be made to that intersection to make pedestrians more visible, to make it safer for people to get across there. Even though right now there is already a pedestrian signal, it still doesn't feel very safe at those large intersection locations to get all the way across. The next intersection is at North Main Street and Avery Street there. There's a big church on the corner. There could also be a marked crossing added at that location as well, and some enhancements. The next project in the top 12 list is Pedestrian 30, that East Main Street sidewalk project is already mentioned. That would go from Longview Road, approximately where the current sidewalk ends, all the way to Depot Street at Pensacola Road. At Depot Street, and I think that's a typo there. The intent is to take it all the way to Depot Street and Main Street, US 19 East. So that would be a pretty long sidewalk stretch. Again, the cost estimate here is planning level cost estimate, and we would expect that pedestrian crossing enhancement at several locations would be included as part of this project. So this would be a pretty important linkage in the sidewalk network for the town to expand at a pretty good length. The next row of projects, Bike 61, is to add the bike share arrows through the center of town. Those would be the markings in the street. Pedestrian 28 would be a sidewalk gap addition on Court Street. Pedestrian 22B would be to add sidewalks along Academy Street from Walnut to Glendale Avenue. And then pedestrian 22A is also Academy Street improvement, but it's a section of Academy Street that's very narrow and it's one way. Here we recommend some markings and landscaping enhancements to traffic calm the street and make it a more pedestrian-friendly environment without necessarily adding a designated sidewalk space. Just because the right-of-way is so constrained, I think you can do a lot with just some landscaping to slow people down, to kind of call to their attention that there's something else happening. You are in downtown, you might as well slow down, just pay attention. Pedestrian 66, some pedestrian scale lighting. And again, that would be to help address that perception of it being a little bit dark. Maybe sometimes people feel unsafe walking in downtown after hours. And pedestrian 36 is that section of sidewalks along Reservoir Road that would connect to Save More Foods, and then it would connect to Bowditch Street, and then there's some apartments off Bowditch Street as well. So just to let you all know, when we posted the online survey, we received mostly positive feedback for the draft recommendations, in addition to positive feedback for the priority recommendations. Some of the comments received that people were concerned with bicyclist safety, but generally from the comments we've heard, people do want to see more and safer walking and bicycling routes throughout town. Some people were commenting during the public pop-up event, for example, that they want to have alternatives to be able to walk outside of just the main thoroughfare. Can you have a walking loop through town, other ways to get around without having to walk along US 19 East? And next I'm just going to show a few visuals for the top 6 priority projects. So the first one is the ADA compliance upgrades along South Main Street. So again, this is just showing a driveway close by the inn there. So the driveways would need to be upgraded as part of this ADA compliance. The image on the left shows the aerial where some of the improvements would need to take place, and the image on the right just shows a retrofitted sidewalk across the driveway. PED 30, that's the East Main Street sidewalk improvement. So currently, as envisioned, the sidewalk extension would probably happen along the southern side, but this is probably one of those areas where during design it would need to be further evaluated for existing constraints, and maybe there'd be some trade-offs between south side and north side. So again, the aerial here and the photo rendering showing what a sidewalk might look like.
Yeah, while you've got that right there up, Chad, for your notes, there's a man who's hearing and visually impaired that walks across that road 4 times a day. He's gonna get killed. Now you can write it down. He needs some sort of marks or a bell or something that would get the traffic to slow down because nobody don't stop for him. And he's sitting out there with his cane trying to listen to see if he can hear cars.
Thank you.
The next project has to do with the bicycle markings or sharrows through downtown Burnsville. And this is what it might look like. So again, mostly it has to do with paint in the road, and that could also be a project that's implemented in parallel with NCDOT resurfacing project. The next project, INTO2, shows improvements for pedestrian crossings at US 19 East and Pensacola Road. So the photo simulation shows you have enhanced pedestrian crossing markings, those high visibility crossing markings, in addition to a programmable no right turn on red sign here. In addition, the photo simulation shows some additional lighting. So lighting, of course, would make those crossing locations along US 19 East safer as well. Academy Street, Shared Street is the next project illustrated here. So currently, again, this is a one-way street. It's pretty narrow. The space between buildings is not very wide, so we're proposing to add some landscaping, signage, features to kind of make it more inviting for pedestrians, and designate as a space where it's shared space between the cars and pedestrians. So again, not really much room for a dedicated sidewalk, but I think that with some landscaping and signage and enhancements, it could be a place where drivers have to slow down and everybody can share the road. Downtown lighting, this again is an illustration showing just some pedestrian scale lighting through downtown. And I realize that there's some concerns with not creating additional nighttime light pollution, but pedestrian scale lighting typically is designed to shine the light downward instead of up at the sky.
Just a quick question. Did you go into depth as far as where the lights will be placed? That's always been an issue for us, or are you just overall saying we need the lighting? It's always been an issue because we really don't have room for poles, to affix to private property buildings, this may not be the time.
Yeah, we have the general parameters for spacing, but yeah, we don't have detailed site plan for where each individual pole would go.
Gotcha.
No, unfortunately, that would still have to be designed as part of a design plan for lighting.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But we think that there could be some minimal impacts to right-of-way. For example, there's some existing curb bulb outs, so you could probably maybe add 1 or 2 curb bulb outs to add additional space for lighting poles. So next I was going to talk a little bit about the next steps. So if the plan were to be adopted by the town council, I think the next steps would be to consider future grant applications and also to continue to work with NCDOT to coordinate on future resurfacing projects and roadway widening projects, and consider submitting some of those projects also for bicycle and pedestrian project funding in the STIP through the spot prioritization process, which goes through the High Country RPO. For now, we are still expecting those final comments from NCDOT again by October 10th. If there are significant revisions needed, we would work with Heather to see if it needs to come back to the council for amendment, but I expect that most of their comments will be minor and having to do with editing and formatting, and there will likely not be substantive changes that will be needed. So we think that having this plan adopted would really help the town in terms of, again, having this better foundation for applying for future grant funding, pursuing other opportunities to implement some of those projects. Nothing in adopting this plan means that you have to, pursue any individual project in this plan. It's not a binding document, right? It's just a plan. It's a foundation to pursue other opportunities to implement. And I also wanted to mention that as part of roadway maintenance, the next opportunity coming up is that there is a resurfacing project scheduled for West Main Street. I think that earlier they were showing actually East Main Street as being resurfaced, but here lately when I checked, they were showing West Main Street, the line in blue, showing up for resurfacing in 2024. So again, that could be an opportunity to work with the division to possibly implement the bicycle sharrows and some of the crossing improvements at that time.
And I've had some discussions with DOT about those improvements in light of the fact that we're pretty much going to be digging up all of Main Street between now and 2026, and for this water line improvements. So, we've been talking about working that stuff sort of together, and it would be a good opportunity for, like I said, the sharrows and some of the other things.
It certainly makes sense if you're going to be messing with the pavement surface and digging up the road to do it once instead of having to do it once and then come back and do it again.
Yes. And it may save us some paving money, so there you go.
So with that, I wanted to open it up for questions, see if there's any questions from the council members.
I don't really have a question, but Russell knows my pet peeves, the three crosswalks in the middle of town, going west, very, very dangerous. And whatever it takes to get those lit up needs to be a priority.
Anyone else? Any questions for Luba? Very good presentation.
Great, thank you all.
Oh, and the paper project that goes with this is unreal. The work that went into it.
Very good. Thank you a lot.
It was a pleasure to work with you all on this plan. It's a great place to be and come visit.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but if you need to leave, we understand.
Thank you.
She's doing it wrong.
Alrighty, so, we're gonna get mentioned now.
Do you want me to talk about that just a little bit? It was part of my report, but I can say it now.
Yeah, just, if you don't mind, that'd be good.
So, one of the reasons that we're bringing this forward for you guys to potentially adopt tonight ahead of DOT's final stamp on it is because there is a grant with the Department of Commerce that Phil True and Tatiana McGee and I have been working on that is due at the end of this month. And it is, the project we're putting forward is the PED 30 East Main sidewalk project. And it has a planning budget of $869,000. The grant, last time they capped these grants, and we applied last time and didn't get any funding. Last time they capped them at $900,000, but I think each local municipality could get up to $950,000. So having this plan adopted helps us move forward in that grant writing process to be able to say this is a project that came out of our planning process and that we have a plan in place. And Luba and her staff, Connor, have been very helpful with us and helpful with High Country and information that they needed to put the grant together. So that's why this is on tonight instead of in November, because our time to file the grant, I think, is October the 30th.
And Ron, just for your information, that East Main has been a topic of conversation
That's all she needed to say.
with us a lot. I mean, we see that as well, and it has been a topic of numerous conversations between the board and with Heather and Chad and everyone.
Judy and I
So
served, it was definitely a deal. It was a priority for us. We just couldn't get it done.
Well, we're hoping that this is successful. We're trying to, there's a lot of things you have to tie it to, and we're trying to make that case as strong as we can, but having an adopted plan, and as Luke said, it's a plan. It doesn't mean that the plan can be amended. It doesn't mean that priorities don't shift or change. I mean, as funding becomes available.
So you want a motion for that?
I do.
I'll make that motion.
And I will definitely second.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, Chad.
Thank you. Got one less thing to talk.
Good deal. All right. Mr. Eddie Bodford. Talk about the ABC distribution.
Yeah, back earlier in the week, I'd asked Heather to check on a statute that's pretty confusing to me, and just get us clarification on distributions to the town of Burnsville. So I guess I'm here waiting for an answer.
Waiting for an answer.
Waiting for an answer.
Well, and here's the answer I have. It is confusing. As the local government attorney at the School of Government said, clear as mud.
Yes.
Basically, without giving y'all a whole tutorial on this stuff, the ABC store has a certain pricing schedule that they have to go by. And then after they have had their gross sales, there are certain things that have to come off of that. Certainly at the top of it would be, you know, what they have paid for the alcohol itself. And then there's a whole list of taxes that come off. And then there's some things that are mandatory, that they have to make certain provisions for distributions to local town law enforcement, alcohol and abuse education programs that flows through the county. And then the other thing is they have a 3.5%, what's called a bottle charge, that's charged on each bottle. And that is part of a distribution that goes into our general fund. And then anything on top of that that was left over after they've done their, I'm looking for the word, working capital.
Yes.
What we call typically fund balance. What their working capital needs, then if there's anything left over, that also comes to the town. For a period of time, up until 2 years ago, there really wasn't nothing left over. So the town didn't get anything other than what their portion of the state sales tax would be, which was pretty minimal. The last 2 years, they have made contributions to the town's fund balance, and it has been just this bottle charge is the amounts. I think in 2020 it was 55,600, somewhere in that neighborhood, and in 2021 it was a little bit more than that, about 58. Yeah. So, and that's looking at quarters through the calendar year, not necessarily the fiscal year, even though they come in the fiscal year. Anyway, so, there are provisions in the statute that allow the board, when I guess the ABC, I wish Lucy was here because she probably could tell us, when it was all set up, a distribution schedule or formula was put out. Either you follow the statute for that or you can have your own. The way ours works is, and the way I understand it from the statute, is 100% of any of the clear profits after all this other stuff has been paid comes into the town's general fund. But the town, the governing body, does have the ability to change that distribution level, okay? But one thing, and Eddie, this I think is easier to do because that requires resolutions that are sent to the state and the commission to approve and all that sort of thing, is in the working capital section, section D of this chapter. It says that the appointing authority, and that's this board, can, set aside a portion of those remaining gross receipts to go to a specific capital improvement, like a building program or something. So that's the overview.
And that's what we're asking for right there, just to, at least till we can get the building finished up and get squared away on our payments and all that. If there be any extra money, we just keep that and to pay on the building. And we may not need it possibly, it may not even reach that point where any extra working capital made or left.
So, you're asking for the bottle charge funds to be put into
In the working capital,
into
possible.
the working capital. And I've got a copy of y'all's budget here, Eddie. And looking at right now, your working capital in this year's budget is $20,000, and the bottle charge that has been estimated is $70,000. Are you?
Right.
And then you have allocation within your budget for your loan payment.
Yes.
And also,
That's just on the land though.
okay. So and that's some of the information we don't have is like do you have your construction loan already in place?
Well, it's a process.
Okay.
So it still may be 30 more days out. I talked with the guy today, and it's, they got the plans to review and a lot of outside work the bank has to do.
Right.
The question I would have, not to interrupt
No, go
Heather,
ahead.
but the question I would have is first, do you feel like that your loan is contingent on this? Or do you
I don't think so. But it's gonna be very, very close either way.
Right,
I mean, the payment is, and with what we take in, what we clear,
right.
it's gonna be extremely close. This would just be a little would be a little breathing room.
Sure.
Probably, I don't know. I would hope so. But it would, allow for a little sleep at night, you know, not
And the second part of that, Eddie, I know when you talked to me about it, and I think when you talked to Heather as well, you'd talked about 2 years.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be right now, and of course the board has an opinion as well, but would be to see where you come in on your loan and see, you know, where you would be. But, you know, in your budget, and I've looked at it too, you're looking at, I mean, you've got $40-something thousand in, you know, in budgeted for rent over there currently.
Right.
So, you know, according to how long it took to get in the building, that would be money that would be freed up too.
Yeah, yes.
So we might could possibly cut that back to,
Yes. And plus cutting other things out of the budget.
right,
Cutting back on it anyway.
sure.
That's what's gonna make it close.
So,
Maintenance.
I mean, what's the board's thoughts on that? I mean, Bill can't have any thoughts, but
Well,
I guess
Bill,
Oh, he can
yeah.
have them, but
he can't
can't express.
express
And
it.
y'all probably should vote to recuse Bill if you make any kind of decisions, or if we're gonna wait until they get their loan documents. I just wanna say one thing, and I appreciate Eddie, appreciate him coming to talk to us and coming to talk to me about this. But I am the town manager, so I do have to say, on the side of town finances, you know, this money that we were anticipating is in our budget. You know that our budget on the general fund side is always pretty tight. And, you know, it's hard to let go, totally of that amount of money. And I understand where they're at and want their building project to go through and be smooth and have some breathing room and stuff like that. But we've talked before in our budgeting and planning that, you know, 1 cent of ad valorem property tax nets the town of Burnsville $16,000 at the current value that is on the town. So that's
You're talking about,
a 4 cent. That's $70,000 is a 4 cent property tax hike. You know, I mean, I'm not talking. We're not wherever the press is. We're not raising taxes here. I'm just letting y'all know the facts. You need to know both sides of this. That if this money comes out of our budget, we're going to have to find ways to make it up. You know, because you know we have expenses that we're planning for with these funds as well.
and the only reason I mentioned that about your loan is, you know, 1% interest change could, you know, be a big change on what you're gonna be paying out too.
Yes.
I mean, Randy, Judy?
The only thing that I'd kinda like to see is some numbers, like Leslie puts together for us for the monthly meeting. Take the ABC stuff and put the numbers together so we can see them. Cause right now, we're shooting in the dark.
Well, that's what I've got for Randy. I've got everybody.
Oh, sweet,
Budget.
sweet, Dave, I appreciate it.
I was gonna give all of them a copy of it. If I could do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe come back next month and be a little bit more informed on what the numbers look like.
And I'd like to kind of go over with everybody, if possible, too. Is that 2 to 1?
No, dude.
Okay, just. And Bill don't get it.
Bill will get played.
I've got one.
What was you gonna say, Denise?
I think it'd be wise too to see where the loan ends up for them, and also to evaluate what it would mean for town to relinquish that monies.
Do you have any kind of estimate? I mean, if they started your build tomorrow, like what they're anticipating in terms of getting the building up and,
Yeah, we could sign we've got a contract on it.
well, I mean,
As far as timeline.
timelines.
Timeline. No, they asked for 14 months, and I don't know what was actually agreed on. I'm not sure anything was. They just asked for that, and I think it just ended there.
They're pretty well they're getting close on the grading, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but you know how this work is, it's hurry up and wait, you know, you work, and then you got to slow down and wait for, you know, the things and stuff there, yes. And we're already at that point now, they finished up what they can do, they're waiting on some tests, I think, for the compaction on the footers. But like I say, it's gonna be a few days, a few weeks before we learn about a loan. I think we got a pretty decent loan for this time, we got 5.75, I was pretty tickled with that. Last time I talked with him, he's talking 6.2, but that, you know, just nothing definite, nothing official, but 5.75.
What's the term on that, Eddie? 20 years?
20 years, yes.
And you rolling the land purchase into that too, right? So it'd just be one.
Right, so on the budget, we bring up to 68,000 on that.
Right. You wanna go over this with the board?
I would like to, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll give this out. This is a printout we get every month from the state about all the ABC stores in North Carolina, what they do, what we all do per month. And this is for August, just the latest one I had. And it's got the percent of growth over last year, month by month. This is for August. It's 6.3 or something like that over last year. And, did you get this?
No, I got that.
It's pretty
I've got
interesting to
you.
look at. You know, you can see what other hotels do, what other stores do. We sort of follow, keep up with what Spruce Pine does, what Valdez does, in the sense that we started at the same time, the same date. You know, we got our, everything approved, we got our stores open back, 12 years ago. And a few more smaller towns, just to see where we fall in there. And it's on the upper half, I guess, as far as sales. We do quite a bit better than Valdez and just a little bit better than Spruce Pine. But some towns our size do a whole lot more depending on what they have. But anyway, on this budget, our budget this year is raised 7% from last year. And it's 2.3 million projected in savings. We did 2.1 last year, roughly. It usually stays about on track there. But the first thing that comes off that is 600 off the 2.3 million, 600 for taxes, and that's just luxury tax. A year, $630,000. And then the cost of that would be 1.2, so that puts $1.8 automatically gone off the 2.3 million. That's 79% of the budget shot the first thing. So that leaves 21% to run the store. Do all we need to do, plus make the distributions. And you can see there, after we make expenses for the store, I should have brought my glasses, but I didn't. But anyway, what is it, like $507,000 is what's left, I believe that is what that says.
You at the top of the page, page
Yeah,
2?
yeah, top of the second page.
Yeah, you've got 317.
Okay, yes, yes, it is.
And then you come down this debt service, and actually that 354 is wrong, that should be 377.
And I have a question too, Eddie, I'm sorry. This, the luxury tax, is that collected from the customer at the time of the sale?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you're collecting that money,
Yes.
and you're just holding it until
Yes,
it's
holding
due?
it, exactly.
So it doesn't really come out of your general fund?
Taxes in there. The
Right.
sales tax got to come out of that. But, and a few more things, I did probably bring tax.
Right, but that doesn't come out of your general fund, that you're just collecting that from the customer at the time?
Well, you can figure, the cost of the alcohol is about, I think about 48, 49% of the sale. And it's about what it figures out there. And then all the tax fees, that's added on is up to 79%. So it's like, well, 32%. And just money we collect for the state. But it's the way they operate. And it's the same for every store in the state. I think there's 300 stores or whatever it is. We all play the same rules. So it's fair. They don't privatize, it's the option, you know, if the state don't operate. You can get rich, sell so much liquor and get rich. Well, you know, we sell a lot of liquor and money. Ends, what we keep is very little. And it's all right. Of course, we do, like I say, we've got $60,000 in debt service, I guess, and $8,000 over in the expenses and interest. Then we pay the town $7,000, I think, for police, and the path, what was that, like $13,000 for
12
education.
for them, yeah. And those are figured on percentages that are in the statute, and this,
Yes.
this 70,000 that says mandatory 3.5% bottle tax, that's in the statute. I mean, that's collected off the top from the consumer as well.
Right. And so the bottom line was, I think we had $20,000 in retained earnings. That's what it says. After we run the store, if everything works out all right. So that's just, I'm sure a lot of the board members, they need to answer some questions. I felt like you did, because this information is not, nobody's ever asked before, that I know of, you know, about how this thing operates. And nobody knew until we got it, and we had to figure everything out as it went, learn on the fly. And, but it's, you know, we not broken any rules, and kept it going and made money, right on schedule.
So Eddie, I got kind of a two-part question. What is the land and what is the building gonna cost?
Combined, that 1 3/4 million. 1.55 on the building, and what was it for? Something on the land. And we've
Just
got-
looking at your audit, Eddie, it said it was 415 on the land.
Yes.
Y'all put some down, what you
Yes.
financed was like 311, and then I think
We made a payment last year.
made some payments,
Yeah.
so, and that one has a balloon, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I think it has to be, after next year it runs,
Next year,
yeah.
Or in July 23.
July 23, yeah. But I hit a lot, it should be rolled into the whole debt.
So that 1.5 is building, or is that a total, what you're looking at?
That's building.
Okay.
It's 1.75, I think, was what we're looking at, about borrowing the amount we borrowed.
Okay.
There's 200,000, I think, will be left after, on the
Yeah.
balloon.
How much is your lane payments now?
3,000, 3,000 a month.
$3,004 a month.
Because that debt service had 60, so I was just confused.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, that's,
Well, maybe Brown was allowing for some extra there if you actually got your loan closed in time. I don't know. Do you remember?
I do not.
That would just be the 36. So
Good
there's
question.
a little extra. Because it's budgeted 60 for the debt service.
I think
That was
he's-
24,000.
He probably was paying extra. I'd say that's what he was gonna pay probably. Because he always liked to pay, he did on the first loan we had when we got started. If we had some extra money, he just paid it on the loan. So, but that is a legitimate question though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just wondering, because I was thinking maybe there was something I
Well, it makes me wonder now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And that might, yeah, it might should be broke out for a principal only payment underneath that or
Yes.
something, I should say.
We can go back
Well,
to
it says loan principal.
Does it?
It just says
On that
principal.
service?
It's spelled wrong, but it says principal.
There you go.
Yeah. Loan principal, and it says 60,000, and that's why, cause then over here they got interest 8,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you do have to break the debt and the interest out.
Yeah.
We have to.
What's the pleasure of the board? that we,
Yeah, I think I'd make a motion, we come back next month, give us time to look the numbers, give Heather time to run the numbers. Well, we can't take a chance till we see what the loan's gonna be.
do you think you'll have that by our next monthly meeting?
Well, I just talked with a guy this afternoon, what the timeline would be. He said between 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, he couldn't give me, so that'd be maybe,
Yeah.
would be maybe, would be.
We've already budgeted for this money in our budget.
Right.
I think it's gonna take a lot of consideration.
When is our November meeting, what day, the third?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if information wasn't back, I mean, let's say we just need 48 hours to call a special meeting, you know, and get back together and talk about it if they don't have it by then. But surely they would. I mean, numbers are what the numbers are, you know.
So your total loan is gonna be like 1.7?
And what are you estimating again for your loan payment for the building and the property together monthly? Have you got an estimate for that yet?
I think it figured $133,000 per year.
For both?
For both.
Yeah, it'll be combined.
There'll be one, it'll be
Uh-huh.
lumped into one loan
Per year?
for a year.
It should be.
You got it.
Well, I mean, it, I'd like to be able to say
11,000.
tonight, you know, we could, but I mean, I feel like the board wants to see
So that would be like.
some numbers. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, and
I mean,
The
Leslie,
loan.
Leslie can do it on her computer as far as, you know, using
Yeah.
you know, just like we done with the fire department, using an interest rate and come to us and, you know, have something to put in front of us, say, you know, their loan payment's gonna be this, you know, we're gonna be,
It's roughly $11,083.
Well, I had looked at 1.5 with like 5 cents, and it was, I mean, it was like 90, I mean, we looked at $96 or $9,700 a
Yeah.
month. But that was at 1.5, so if you keep it to 1.7, then you're going over 10. So I'm sure he's pretty close. I was thinking 120, 125, somewhere in there, but I don't know.
And you're looking at,
At the rate,
there's not a down payment, you're looking at a term of 20 years.
Yeah.
how much? Well, the fire department was 126, and it's 12. I mean, it's 12 a month.
what was the rate? Do you remember the rate?
It's better rate than that.
yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
got,
it's a much better rate than that, so you're getting, but more interest.
Well, you know, it's about the time we started, about the time they did, and, you know, it's, of course, a lot of things have changed. What's it been, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. And that time we got ready to get the money, everything started jumping up. And but it's not over with yet, though, you know. If we don't get this, by the next time, we'll probably be up to 6.5 or something. But I can't speed them up, I don't think they can. Well, that's what the guy said, they had to ship some of the work out, especially like the plans, to get an appraisal on it.
I mean, one big thing as I look at this, I keep going back to it, is, you know, once you're in the building, that frees up right at $60,000.
Yes,
with
yes,
repairs.
that's why I asked for a little break in there, just at that point in time. Because it's gonna be very, very close to pay the rent and to make a building payment. I mean, it's down, it's gonna be scary.
Is this a construction loan that's going to roll into a permanent finance? Or are you doing a construction loan and then you're gonna have to do a second loan for your permanent finance?
Well, you know, I really don't, we've not discussed that with the bank. I don't know what kind of loan it is gonna be. I know with the contractor, we got it all broken down into sections, you know.
Yeah.
So much per section. Each one's about $250,000, I guess. Close to
So,
that.
I mean, that would be one thing to know too, because, I mean, just for y'all, because you might get one rate on a construction loan, but they're expecting somebody to come in the back door and pay it off and clear it out, and there might be a different rate on your permanent financing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, nothing like that's ever been mentioned with the bank. He threw those numbers out at me about, this is what, he said, the going rate was 6.2 right now, but he said, I've got you 575 money for 20 years. And I'd ask for 30 years, of course, naturally, that's that. They want to loan it for 10 or 15.
Nobody will go
That doesn't sound
20
like
on
a
a commercial
construction
loan.
loan.
It's worth the
What if
try.
he's talking 20 years, it can't be just
That
building?
wouldn't be a construction loan, so that's just straight, which is unusual that they didn't do a construction loan. But, who
Ours
knows?
was kind of odd, because it actually was like that too, and then when we would get, like, McGill oversaw the construction, and they would turn in a payout with McGill signed off, and then we send it to the bank, and then they'd authorize and release that money.
Well, you know, this may be that way. Like I say, we've not got down to
They
details.
didn't
on it.
send us the whole wad at one time, we just had to, they released it a little bit at a time as it was, like a construction loan.
Yeah, it was kind of like.
But then it converted into permanent financing, and so we didn't have to go back and get another loan.
Yeah, you might wanna ask
them.
them.
Payments for the whole amount right at the start.
Yeah.
And then if there was any change orders, we actually had just to amend the budget, and we had to pay for those, because that was out of, the loan wasn't enough to cover that.
Have y'all passed a project ordinance yet, Eddie? For this project that breaks all them numbers down for the project itself?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that'd be good to look at too. See where we're at.
I think if you're okay with it, Eddie, we come back to the November meeting.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Just because, I mean, you have briefly mentioned it to me just this week, and you've talked to Heather,
Yeah.
but without the, the rest
Sure.
of the board.
Sure,
This
understand.
is the first time they've heard it, and maybe they can see some
Yeah.
numbers, if you're okay with that.
Yes, fine. I would love that. I mean, and I don't think 30 days is gonna hurt gonna delay the construction. I mean, things, it's all up to the bank and the bank's hands right now, but their time, about getting all the things they have to do.
Right.
I've got everything turned into them. But I think that the plans was a big thing from what he said today, because he has to find, an appraiser, whoever they have, and then he'll have to get to it on his time, I guess. So I don't think they could really give me a definite time, that's what I gather, but who knows?
Well, just keep Heather informed if, something changes between
Yeah.
now
That'd
and
be
next month.
So let Mayor Chadwin know, I mean, if you get that in, and then we'll put it back on the agenda anyway. but
Okay.
We'll, closer to the time when you think they get your information, let us know.
Sounds fair enough,
All right,
and I appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ed.
you.
All right. Ms. Hockaday, manager's report.
Lord, give to me.
You've got one less on there.
Well, I've got one last. Other than I do want to mention about that one before we move on too far past it. One of the things so this is a grant opportunity through the Department of Commerce. And one of the things that we have to show is some kind of economic impact. Tatiana had basically gathered information on all the properties on East and West Main, up and down East and West Main, looking at just the difference in values, and it's pretty astonishing. I mean, the difference in the value, the average value per acre on West Main is $722,574 more than a property on East Main. Yeah.
And then you got plenty of room to go eat. You've actually got more room to go eat.
It was pretty amazing, and we've got 23 parcels that would be in the project area where we would put the sidewalk, and the difference in the average value per acre of property there is actually almost $800,000 within those. So, you know, I want to say for us, obviously balancing out both sides and getting some economic development going on the east side. We've had lots of discussions about that. And hopefully putting some public infrastructure like a sidewalk in there could help.
Like growing maybe.
Our ARPA grants from DEQ, we let out our RFQ for engineering services on the 4 projects that were funded, and we received responses from 3 different engineering firms. And I got word yesterday that DEQ is actually not going to send grant contracts. The letter with intent to fund is what serves as your notice to proceed ahead. I think they're down there just treading water, trying not to drown. But so as soon as I get back after next week, me and Shane will sit down and score these and come back to you guys in November with some
Who's the third one? I mean, I know obviously the 2 are.
CDC.
Civil.
And I don't know that they put in for, because I haven't opened them yet, I don't know that they put in for all of the projects. I think
But they're doing
Little League.
Little League anyway.
I think they have more interest in maybe some of the water stuff than they do the solar, don't they? Yeah. So we'll hopefully have some engineering contracts ready for y'all in November. FEMA, I have a contract for McGill and Associates for engineering, design, and construction oversight for the Azalea Lane project. We need approval on. And then Shane has also talked the smaller project over on Reservoir and Bowditch with a contractor, and we anticipate. Did you anything back today on that?
I did not.
Yeah, he met with him yesterday, they looked at it, we anticipate going to contract on that, and that would be a micro project, because it's a very small amount to get that done. Good news from Jonathan Hartzell with the Blue Ridge Resource Conservation and Development Council. They had written a couple of grants for us to try to daylight, open the stream up through the field over below the shed, and restore that stream. Take that old pipe out and restore it into a stream. We were approved, or they were approved, by the North Carolina Land and Water Fund for $202,500. I think sometime this month we should hear back from the North Carolina Division of Water Resources about whether they're going to match those funds. So that's good. I've got a resolution to advertise contracts electronically. The state allows us with local government board approval to actually put on our website contracts that we have out for bid, and we anticipate that that's going to be something that's coming with all these different projects, that we will need that ability to be able to do that. So I would ask for approval on that. So were those the 2 I had?
Yeah.
Chad?
Yeah.
Oh, got the third one. So I'll talk a little bit about this last one, then Russell and Shane can talk more, but, you know, we had supplanted, even though they're not letting us use that word anymore, are they? Yeah, they don't want us to use it. The direct ARPA funding that just the town got in that first round, that $524,000, we put that into, they could put it in general government services, we put it into our law enforcement budget for salaries, and now the wash from that has gone back into our general fund. And so paving is obviously another important piece of infrastructure. We've come a long way in getting funding for water and sewer projects, and roads are another big step for us. Last fall, we had our pavement condition survey done, and Russell and Shane took that survey, that document out, and looked at the areas that had the most critical needs on it, and came up with a project list. And so last Friday, we had a pre-bid meeting with some contractors. I think we had, how many, Russell?
4.
4. And they're supposed to get us estimates back tomorrow. This will not be using the entire amount of that money. We're estimating the project to come in somewhere between, I think we had 250 and 295,000. So be under the $300,000 threshold. Lacey will have a budget amendment to talk to y'all about in a little bit, but we anticipate coming back in the November meeting and having, that's what I wanted to ask, sorry. Since we don't meet again until November, I would like for you to give Russell the authority to enter into contracts, on these paving projects.
We're basically out of time.
We don't have but a month.
It's gonna be October, 1st of November according to the weather, but, that's one thing in the pre-bid that we talked about with the contractors. We wanted a schedule submitted with their estimates, and, that'll play a vital role into it as well.
If we split it up, they can get more done.
So it is split up. It's split up into 3 groups, and we tried to group it to where they're closer together. I think group 1 had, correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but maybe 4 projects in group 1, 5. Group 2 had about the same, and then group 3 was only 2 projects. It was over here, Pinola and Bowditch Street were 2 that are pretty large projects, but we grouped them together. And you never know how these bids are gonna come in. One contractor may be low on all of them. In a perfect world, I'd like to see 3 of them be low bidders and go to work simultaneously and get this done.
Because that's the only way we get them all done.
It's the only way you'll probably, it's all based on the weather. A lot of these streets don't need a whole lot of undercut and repair. A lot of it's resurfacing, and that goes pretty quickly. So, again, just to reiterate on what Heather said, Shane and I took the pavement survey. We used it, but we also looked at a lot of it visually and made determinations on what was priority, and done some cost estimates where we thought we could stay around that $300,000, which is great. As y'all know, Shane's usually got $50,000, and that don't go a long way when it comes to paving.
No.
That's patching only, so it's a big step to be able to get a lot of these streets done that are in desperate need. Part of that, especially over there at Pinola, we're gonna widen that just a little bit to help Miles out. That's a little tight for a fire truck.
It
So
is.
we're gonna widen that to 2 feet. It'll help a little bit. So.
Well, Randy made the motion and I'll second it.
All in favor?
And then I just need votes on the other 2.
All right. Motion for the consideration for the advertising of contracts
I'll make that motion.
electronically. All in favor? And one more for the agreement for engineering services for Azalea Lane with McGill.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
And the last thing I have is the tax report, and I gave y'all the delinquent taxes, it's cutting down, the numbers are coming down. We're monitoring this every month and making notes on who's signed the payment agreements and who's come in and made some payment agreements and who might have to talk to some other people about agreements. But anyway, we're chipping away at those that are past due, but I mean, it's good to see from 2012 to 2021, there's less than $20,000 that's owed to the town of Burnsville, and that's personal and real property, so that's good. The 22s, of course, we just billed in September, but we've already, I think, Leslie, did you say 22% have paid, so those are good numbers too. We got great people that live here and pay their taxes. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Heather. All right, moving on to Mr. Chad with the clerk's update.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to mention the Board of Adjustments training that we had mentioned previously. I can get you all registered. There's an afternoon option and an evening option. And once I get you registered, they'll send you some emails. It'll have all the links you need to do the Zoom. It's all online. If y'all are interested, just let me know what time you'd like me to sign you up for. Afternoon.
They've already sent the bill
I forgot the dates, Chad. What were they?
October 20th and 27th.
Yeah, I can't, when is the 27th? So it's
What is it, the 20th and 27th?
Yeah,
20th and 27th.
20th and the 27th.
27th at 5:30.
Day.
27th is late.
Yeah,
I'll do the 27th one at 5:30. Thank you.
I'm going to do the 20th. It's during the day.
Is that all you have, Chad?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, move on to Mr. Dale.
Thank you.
Good news, Dale.
How about no news? How's this?
Hey,
Everything
no
seems
news.
to be all right, and we're tickled to death. We got no rain, or very little rain, out of hurricane that rolled through Ian. That's about all I
Oh, that's
No
good.
news is good news.
have. No news is good news.
All right, Miss Leslie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so I'm just kind of like a follow-up to Heather's news here. First thing I have is a project ordinance for I got a budget amendment. Okay, the budget amendment is actually just for the paving, and it's $295,000, just so there's a little leeway. It's basically from fund balance, and that's just where we had put that savings from the ARP money into fund balance. And then we're increasing the street capital outlet line of $295,000.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Oh, sorry, but that's all it's for.
Make
It's
a
just
motion
that.
to approve it.
And I was gonna pay that sheet, Kevin told me that this exhibit with it, it's got that, so. Okay, so you made a motion, Judy?
Yeah.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Okay, then this is the FEMA grant project ordinance, and this is just, for those claims that we had from last year's tropical storm. FEMA moves slow, hard, it seems to be pretty hard to work with a lot of times. All I done was take the scope of work prices that the preliminary engineer had done, then, we're contracted, or, hopefully with McGill to do the construction administration, and then there's some testing that they'll also want to have to do. And so this up here should be covered by FEMA and the state, and this possible additional FEMA coverage, we think for sure we'll probably get that covered, but there is the possibility that we may not, so I just have it there italicized, and then that's the breakout of what it's for. And it may not be all that, it's just there, but we may get it covered, but we may not. If we don't, we'll let you know. But
Well, have a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
all right, lastly, is my close, I need to close this accounts. I'm like, the books are just, I can't even put them all in one place anymore. But the fire department construction account, we're done with that, so I just need permission to close it and move what's left. There's not much, $700 put that back to fire tax. And then, the old Peterson trailer park grant, for some reason,
the state of North Carolina just likes to put all grant money into that account. I'm not sure why, but I couldn't close it out when we were there with this last CDBGI. So now, in between here, we're gonna try to close it and hopefully fill out a new direct deposit form and have that based out.
You need a motion to close both of them? I'll make that.
Second.
All in
Thank you.
agreement?
I think that's it for me now.
All right, thank you, Leslie. All right, Niles, we certainly appreciate you being here. I know you've been under the weather. Been thinking about you.
Thanks,
I
sir.
know you've had a rough time. I've checked in with Amanda at football practice about you. Appreciate you being here.
Call summary for the month you have before you, and you ended up with 41 calls for the month, total 333 for the year. Most of the ones this month have been fire alarms and MVAs. Traffic is a problem, but it is what it is. Also, just to update you, we did get the $35,000 grant that I applied for state, so that money did come in. So we've got that fund to work on and try to determine the best use of those funds. There's no stipulation or requirements for its use. They just wanted to give everybody money, so we get that sum into our account just the last week. And that's about all I have to report.
Are you, just a side note, are you considering paving that on the other side over there?
Well, I have been considering paving that, but we'll see how that, I don't know how much the total cost of that'd be.
I didn't know, maybe the contractor that gets the Pinola, if you wanted to talk to them, maybe while they were there.
That'd be a possibility.
Just threw that out there. Thank you, Niles. Mr. Chief Buchanan.
Yes, sir. Y'all have our activity logs. The only thing, Lisa, I was gonna mention, we did get our bulletproof vest grant again this year. That's something Randall's worked on for the last, probably 7 or 8 years, and that's where they match 50% of the cost of a new vest for one of our guys. And then the league has a program where they provide an additional $250. So we will end up with I think the vests are running close to $1,000 at this point now. We wind up having about $200 or $300 per town membership. It's all said and done. So I wanted to mention that. That's really all I have release-wise. Everything's running pretty smooth. And the only thing I was going to mention, zoning code enforcement-wise, was our planning board meeting for next week is canceled. If you'd like to see that, we actually don't have a project to consider at this point. There's a possibility we may have to do a special meeting. There's some stuff out there, but they weren't ready to submit any sort of packet at this point. So that's where we are with zoning code.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Corbin.
Yeah, so as always, everything's just amazing here. This month we have 31 events, which is a pretty big jump from what we normally have. On average, it's around like 22, 24 events. So we're getting pretty busy again, which is awesome. Really, the only thing I was going to tell you guys about is just some of the upcoming beer events that we have with Hope. Dig In Empty Bowls is going to be on October 14th. Grill Fest we have on the 22nd of October. Chrissy Edwards is having some of her craft shows. Christmas Ornament Craft Show will be on November 5th, and then the Holly Jolly Craft Show will be on November 26th. Then I potentially have a concert coming up in December. It's not finalized yet, but once it is, I'll tell you about that too. And that's really all I have.
No. Thank you very much. Council members' reports. Anyone have anything that they'd like to say or report on?
The last meeting we had at High Country was a presentation of Heather and Jamie McMahon, and it was just about the whole meeting, but it was very good, and they had told about the grants and what to do to get them and keep persisting and everything, and then when they found out how much that they had got for us, the mouths was just...
Well, I wish Jamie was here because he has better numbers, but I think for the county as a whole, you're talking over $40 million.
Wow. Great job.
Great job.
I was surprised. I didn't realize it was that much money. He had added everything, I think, in the past year and a half.
No, they were taking notes and everything, that got attention, I tell you, and then some of them got practically nothing.
Good deal. I will say, just briefly, I was contacted by Blue Ridge Regional Hospital. I've got to go there in the morning, to sign the proclamation for breast cancer awareness, along with the town of Spruce Pine, the town of Bakersfield. They normally, I normally have it, but they're doing it differently this year. So just to let everyone know, I'll be going over there to sign that proclamation for the month of October, breast cancer awareness. That's all I have. Anybody, Denise, Randy, Judy?
Nope.
All right, moving on to the advisory boards and nonprofits. Have the ABC board member vacancy. Just
I think we have a couple of, well, Chad can tell you how many we have on file.
But we have three applications currently.
And we think probably should, advertise, and then in November, you all can appoint somebody from those.
Who's going off? Who's going off?
RL
RL
resigned.
resigned. No Jamie, you gonna do Jamie's, Christie? Okay.
But you get to go first, though.
Are you doing,
I don't have to follow.
are you doing anything for Jamie, Heather? You don't?
No, he had a meeting down in South Carolina this evening and said he regretted, but he wouldn't be able to make it, so.
Well,
So we
Christie
leave
gets to
that.
go before Jamie.
Still no word on the, still no word on the building.
Which ones?
That Jamie's been working on the produce.
I think they're working on getting contractors.
It's supposed to be this fall.
Two halves, I don't know, so we'll have to ask the teams.
Do you know, Christie?
About which property?
The farmer's market.
Farmer's market.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No idea. Well, thank you for having me again. I do appreciate that I'm not following Jamie. He's a hard act to follow. And I just want to say that it's been 2 years since I stood up here for the first time and spoke to you all. I celebrated my 2-year anniversary this past weekend here. So this past month, and as it seems like every month, we've put on our remote worker networking event, our business after hours out at the Mount Mitchell Eco Retreat, which had a great showing. And then we did our business education breakfast as well as a planetarium night out at the Earth to Sky Park, where we got to bring in chamber members and show off our new planetarium here in the county. Currently, I'm putting together a working group of people to program it's a program through Mountain BizWorks to build assets for building outdoor communities, economic development program, and they're getting us grant ready to be able to, as a county, ask for funds to help us develop our assets for outdoor economies. And Jamie and I did partner on a grant that will help us get some of those assets through the Department of Commerce. They'll help us do some asset mapping and strategic planning for our outdoor economy. So that's something that I'm working on with him and the Tourism Committee. Nominees for the Chamber Board of Directors are in, and as soon as my board approves those nominees, the ballots will go out on October 12th. And there's also applications out right now for Excellence in Business Awards. So if there's a business that you would like to nominate, please, if you haven't seen the application online, let me know. I'd be happy to get those out. We will be giving those awards out for the first time. I don't know if they've ever given out business awards here at our annual dinner, which is January 19th. Otherwise, working on Trick or Treat Main Street, going to shut down the streets again, have a lot of fun with about 2,000 trick-or-treaters. And then the Christmas Parade and Merry Main Street are also in the works. So it's an overview of everything we've got going on. And I'd love to see any and all of you at the events that we've got this month, but none of you signed up for the 27th in the evening will be able to come to my Toe River Crafts business after hours, because I'm out for a wedding on the 20th, so it won't be that day. So thank you. Questions? Comments?
Congratulations on your 2-year anniversary.
2 years, I made it so far. So far. Yeah, every day is a challenge.
You have done an amazing job, Tricia.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for all that you do.
It's hard when you set the bar high for yourself and you know that next year you hope to beat it. But you know, job security.
Done a
So,
phenomenal job. Thank you. All right. Bill, you don't have anything else to report on for High Country? All right. We don't have any closed sessions. Next meeting, November the 3rd. Judy, you may have to preside over that.
Why?
My vacation starts next week. You definitely
Your
will in December.
vacation. That's a long vacation.
December 3rd will be the Christmas parade, is that right?
yes. First Saturday.
First Saturday.
First Saturday. And then Mary Main Street is the Friday after that, the 9th.
Nobody has anything else? Have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.